king-size bed a while ago, and it's just sitting on a frame. My wife has asked me for quite some time to build a headboard. Being that it is a pandemic and it seems like the thing to do is to get yourself into projects, I thought, you know what, it's been 3 years since that request, let's do it. Except, I'm not racing to the Home Depot to get our parts. I'm going into our barn, and maybe I can find some stuff to make that headboard. This is the inside of our barn. So yeah, in a perfect world, I'd come in here with the chainsaw and cut some of these beams and make the coolest headboard that my wife or I have ever seen. Look at this old barn. But that's not an option. Now look at all this great wood. Let's look in this other area. Look at this old thing. The doors are around here somewhere. And it might make a sweet headboard, but I don't know, we kind of had the grand vision to put it somewhere else. That's on the list too. Sorry, honey. See this. This is an 8-foot tall door. And I think we just found the candidate for the headboard. It's got paint on it, so we got to see what kind of wood it is. If it's the right kind of wood to match one of those old studs from the old farmhouse, I think I'd get excited about that. Let's pull it out. Well, by lifting it, I can tell you it's a solid core door. Certainly long enough and strong enough for a headboard. What I need to know is what's underneath that paint. Can it be stripped or sanded off without ruining it? I don't know. This door has a veneer on both sides. It's glued onto a solid core. Looks like it's probably a birch door. It's not a terrible grain. Sometimes that works with white oak. Let's get out the sander and see if we can liven it up. If we can, we might have found a candidate. That's a cool finish. I think that's birch. I don't know, somebody else might know what it is. A lot like what the birch doors come out, the smaller versions of them. I think I'm gonna keep going with this. It's sanding quite quickly with, what is that, a 120 grit? I wanted to stay a little bit less aggressive just in case the finish wasn't super great, but I don't know, I think we might be onto something. I'm gonna keep going. Also, you never want to sand a door that has paint on it without knowing where it came from in case there's lead-based paint. That's the last thing you want to do. And always wear a mask, a respirator, just in case. Alright, probably 30 minutes in. I'm using this sander, random orbital sander. Tough to say, because you can sand and it doesn't scratch the grain. A belt sander, you could not sand this down with a belt sander, it would look uneven. For some reason you can go back and forth against the grain with these kinds of sanders and not mess anything up. And since we're going to stain this door, we don't want scratches. We want it to look really nice. I'm getting there. Really getting excited. I think it's going to be really nice. Okay, so it's not a stud from the old farmhouse. And I know that because this is from a job that we did a couple years ago where we were buying thick, rough sawn lumber, and this is white oak. Making handrails and making other things for people's houses, totally custom. This so happens to be long enough for the sides of our headboard. And even though I don't always stick by the sketches, we're just gonna kind of keep it simple. And you can see, you know, these are the sides that I'm thinking. It's gonna kind of morph and change a little bit as we go. Flat top, maybe some detail, get out the router, all that kind of stuff. We need something sturdy for the sides, and I don't think you get much sturdier here than white oak. Most times when we do this, we only have one door slab or one window or one piece of wood, and it can be pretty scary getting to the point where you got to make the cut. And that's where I am here. I have to cut this door to the width that we need it for that California King headboard. Secretly, I have another one over there, but I'm not even going to remember that because I need to nail this cut on the first try. Another thing that I've learned with cutting doors with veneer on it is that that veneer pulls off because the circular saw blade goes up. And so what I need to do is flip the door over and cut it from the opposite side so it has a less tendency to rip all those fibers out of the veneer. Wish me luck. Here we go. We should be good, but you can see I'm using a 4-foot level as a straight edge. I have my clamps, and under the clamps on the finished side I have blocks of wood so we don't have to sand out the big dents that can be put in there by these clamps. So, got this, put it on, cut it with the circular saw. Here we go. Okay, you can see how that door is made. We have to keep that in mind when we're screwing on our side posts. All right, I took that long board and I cut it. It didn't sand it too much, just so it's smooth and there's no slivers, because we want it to look rustic. And this is oak up against maple or cherry or whatever that is. So we got a ways to go, but we wanted to space this thing. So we have some spacers underneath here, so there's just about 3/4 of an inch. It'll work with the other boards that we're going to put in there, kind of low profile. So let's get those screwed on and then we'll look at putting some accent pieces on. This oak is really, really tough, so we want to make sure that we pre-drill this. Alright, next up we have to find some wood to cover up that hole that's on the top, and we have some here, which is the same oak from the same batch as what those sides are from, but we have to run it through the planer a bunch of times, straighten it out, and get this piece to work. So let's see if we can find the planer. All right, just have to find the planer. Let's see here. Planer. Ah, here we go. This thing's really heavy. Here it is. We'll go set this thing up. So we lower the cutters down a little bit each time until we get, look at this, a little bit less than what that distance is, which is about 3/4 of an inch. We want to take these boards down to 5/8, and I'll show you why when we do it. Okay, look at it. It goes from the rough to the smooth. Look at that. It's beautiful. But we got to run it a bunch of times through the planer. We want to have it just this board a little thinner than here. It kind of gives it a little reveal. What we notice is we have 3 species of wood here. We have this birch or cherry veneer. They look very similar. We have red oak. See how kind of red it is? And then the uprights are white oak, which are really strong. So what I'm hoping is if we use a darker stain, it'll all kind of flow together, hopefully. So we took that thick piece of rough sawn oak and we planed it down. Now this piece, I always envision, goes here. Whoa, like a glove. Okay, look at that. We're getting there. Remember, this started off as a tree in somebody's yard or somebody's wood, and you saw it before we put it through the planer. It was really rough, and now look at how beautiful it is. That's red oak. And we sand over the exposed edges, so on the headboard you don't want anybody reaching up getting a sliver or anything, right? So this one goes here, and I'll nail these ones on here, and nail down here. And then we're going We're gonna put this piece, it does look like white oak. I'm really excited about that. We wanna make sure that we get this top right, and I purposefully didn't sand it super smooth just because I want that rustic look. I'm gonna put one nail here. I'm gonna come down here and I'm gonna level it up like this. Here's a secret too. One of the things that I think is really cool is if you build rustic stuff and there's dings in it, it's not 100% perfect, it's actually more valuable that way. You know, this is not a super perfect setup on purpose. So let's, after we put this on, we'll look at these angle ones, clean it up, get ready to stain it. Most, if not all, air compressors, when they run, they build up moisture, water, in the bottom of the tank. So if you take this blower to blow the dust off without spraying it in the air first, you could get the door wet. And the problem is, as soon as you put moisture onto this dry door, the grain's gonna come up, and that means you have to wipe the whole door down a couple times with water to make it all match. Otherwise, you'll see these little dots. So I really hope this works, but I'm gonna spray it in the air first. You can almost see it, the moisture. You see that? Trick of the trade. Always start it away from the board. And blow it on. Veneer takes the stain quite a bit differently than what this oak did. So I'm just trying to get it as dark as I can get it, let it dry a little bit, and then come back and wipe it and try to get rid of some of these marks. If I did this all the time, I probably would be way better at it. This is just a little project using stuff from the barn. Okay, we've got it this far. Let's get the Pink Panther going. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Pink Panther. Pink Panther is one of the most valued members of our team. Look at the chains. Foam-filled tires, rebuilt diesel John Deere motor for reliability. We just got to get it started. Let everything warm up so that we can use it to get the headboard to the house. Come on, baby. It's alive. It's alive. It's alive. Now we gotta let it warm up. So using the Pink Panther is quite a bit better than lifting it by hand, but we still got to get it in the house. Hey, if you read my article about heat pumps and fuel oil furnaces integrated together through Mother Earth News, first of all, thank you very much. Secondly, this is where it's at. Fuel oil tank, and that's right, my wife thinks that looks like an outhouse, and she hopes that nobody uses it as one. All right, let's get this inside. We'll take this back way. This headboard's come a long ways. Look, you can still see the hole in the back of it. If you look real careful, there it is. An old door into a headboard. Now the tricky part, getting it inside. The headboard attaches to the frame with leg bolts like any other one. Got the lights on either side and the nightstands and a tall farmhouse trim.